Well, good afternoon and welcome. Welcome to another of our Webinar Wednesdays, number 28 since the pandemic started. Who would have thought? Well, good afternoon. My name is Kelly Bearden. I'm the director of the CSU Bakersfield Small Business Development Center, located in downtown Bakersfield. And at that center, we actually are part of the America's SBDC program, a program of 50 states and 6 territories of the U.S., providing small business services such as one-on-one business consulting, training, other resources, and information and advice. We are part of the Central California region, which my map's a little bit off. Take out Santa Clara and Santa Cruz County, and one of these days I'm going to update this map. But until then, we are 14 or 15 counties in the central part of California that run from the Pacific Ocean to the state of Nevada, to the southern part of Kern County, all the way to the tip of Mono County. In there, we have 6 different centers, local centers that you can contact for information. We're located in Bakersfield and serve Kern, Inyo, and Mono counties. We have other centers in Clovis, Merced, Modesto, Salinas, and in San Luis Obispo. So contact your SBDC if you have any questions, have any concerns, would like more information, or would like some very valuable one-on-one free business consulting. So again, we're sponsored and we're here every Wednesday thanks to these fine people. And we appreciate their efforts and support for the webinar series and our program in general. So thanks to all those. And I think today, I just gave away a poll question. How about that? We're going to jump in and do the polls right now. We do have 3 polls, and I have been listening to you that I'm doing too many business polls and that you wanted a music poll. And so as you saw, that was Jimi Hendrix. Poll question number 3, and that was his performance in 1968 in Bakersfield. But before we get to that, let's go to our other polls that try to provide some information to us and get us that valued information. So our first poll question today is going to be, has your business adopted any of the following business practices due to the pandemic? And it is going to be an increased dependence on online sales. It's going to increase use of electronic payments, offer curbside pickup, other products and services, or none of the above. So has your business, and maybe your business wouldn't be, the type of business that would offer those types. So you could either answer none of the above or choose not to participate. But if something is available for your particular business, has your business adapted any of the following business practices? Increased online sales, electronic payments, curbside pickup, or do you offer different products or services, or none of the above? So we have about half of you that have voted right now. We'll give you another couple of minutes to jump in and see where we stand on this. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do like we've done in the past and compare it with a recent survey from the National Federation of Independent Business. So we have 64% of you voted. Let's jump in and close the poll at this point and end it and see exactly where we end up. Sharing the results, we see 2/3 of you have done none of the above, and that is fairly consistent. It's a little wider gap than the 57% of the NFIB poll. 15% of you have adopted more of an online sales, and so that's good. We'll see probably hear some great examples of what other people are doing today, and 10 of you have increased the use of electronic payments instead of cash, offer different products or services is 10%, and 8% curbside pickup. Okay, thank you for participating in that. We're gonna stop sharing this particular poll, and we're gonna move on to our second question. And our second question is going to be a concern over COVID-19 and its related increased liability against your business, employee, or customer. And launching the poll is, how concerned are you about COVID-19 related increased liability? And liability meaning potential lawsuits, etc., against your business by an employee or a customer. If you recall, very concerned, moderately concerned, not too concerned, or not concerned at all. You'll recall this was part of the debate going on the stimulus package that is still hung up at this time. And this gives us a pretty good idea, and it looks like the numbers are coming in pretty close to what we had in our NFIB poll that we're finding are incredibly similar, or at least very similar to unique. So we're going to close the poll. We have about 65% of you that have voted. Thank you for voting in the poll. Share the results with you. And how concerned are you about COVID-19 related increased liability? Well, 46% of you say moderately concerned, 26 are not too concerned, very concerned are 15%. So about 61% of you are either very concerned or moderately concerned. And we'll stop that share and jump on to our third and final question. And I'm going to set this up a little bit. Last week, Keith Bryce was our guest host, and thank you again for Keith for stepping in for me. And his poll question last week dealt with the U.S. Open Golf Tournament held over the weekend, of which was won by a native and resident of the San Joaquin Valley, Bryson DeChambeau, who was born in Modesto and raised in Clovis, and really did an impressive job on the Winged Foot Golf Course, which has hosted the U.S. Open several times. So last week, the U.S. Open Golf Course was played at the famed Winged Foot Golf Course in New York City. What is my favorite Jimi Hendrix song? And you have Little Wing, All Along the Watchtower, Hey Joe, Purple Haze, Red House, all very popular Jimi Hendrix song. I'm trying to help you out here because last week the U.S. golf tournament was played at the famed Winged Foot Golf Course in New York City. What is my favorite Jimi Hendrix song? And we're getting up there with about 40% of you that are really kind of either taking my hint and jumping on it very well. We have about 60% of you voted. So we'll end this, and thank you for reminding me it's been several weeks since we've had a Bakersfield related song as part of our poll questions. And of course, the connection was what I'll show you that picture again. But we're gonna end the poll with 64% of you voted and share the results. And yes, you are correct. It is Little Wing, which it was a song that was written, I believe, in 1967. In a 2013 Rolling Stone magazine reader poll of favorite Jimi Hendrix singles, it came in as number 2 in the reader poll. So very popular song. And that is our poll for today. And then of course the share from 1968? Yeah, 1968, right there, Bakersfield, California. The summer of 1968, Jimi Hendrix played downtown at the convention center, I believe it was called at the time. One of our webinar attendees was in attendance that day, Rockin' Rick, and Rockin' Rick was in the house, and many others. Very notable and interesting day for sure. Okay, let's get on with today's presentation and start talking about what's new. And really, you know, and a lot of the stuff that we want to find out about what's new is really, well, not too much. So when we look at our poll question from a few weeks ago and talk about forgiveness and how interested you are in getting that forgiveness done, we've done that twice in a polling question, and everybody seems to want that PPP forgiveness. Again, we really haven't had anything significant come out in the last 6 weeks now. It's been since early August, August the 5th, right in line with our webinar on that date. So we're still waiting, and there are a lot of things that are going on the PPP side of things while we stay on forgiveness. And we're going to have a couple of questions that we go through here in a minute. But before we get there, on the PPP forgiveness, we're starting to see a number of banks that are kind of doing a graduated approach toward bringing in some of their PPP clients, and looks like it's going to be a rather lengthy process. Thank you for those of you out there that share with me your experiences with your lenders. We're seeing a lot of the local lenders and some of the smaller lenders that are starting to do the process in batch. We had held out for a long time about getting some blanket forgiveness for loans of $150,000 or less. And to be honest with you, as time goes on without a stimulus package, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. Along those same lines, we were encouraged, however, last night when the House and Senate and the White House all got together and agreed on a spending program that keeps the government solvent through December 11th. And that's good. It doesn't have much to do with the stimulus, but what it might have is it might have a spirit of cooperation to where they got that done, to where they can go back and take the politics out of the situation and try to do its best for, American small businesses, families, etc. So no political statement there, just everybody work together and get us a deal. And hopefully that's what we'll be talking about next week. But until that point, let's talk about what we do have. And we do have some great programs locally that continue to keep popping up. And we're going to get into the BCARES, City of Bakersfield programs that they have. And what they have is they have some of the grants and also some loan programs that we'll go to the sites and look at, discuss some of the specifics. As far as your update on the stimulus package, you pretty much just got that. So that's your stimulus update. PPP forgiveness, I have a couple of questions that some of you in the audience submitted. We're going to go over those in a little more detail than we have in the past and do that before we bring our guest speaker out, special guest speaker Claudia Newcorn. The last thing I'd like to mention is on SBA loan and deferral, and mention again that the EIDL program is still open. If you recall, as part of the CARES Act, the SBA came out and said, if you have an existing SBA loan, we are going to make that payment for 6 months. Now, the time to do that election, the final date for that is September 30th. I believe most lenders, I know Keith did, and a lot of our local SBA lenders in the Bakersfield community were very active in getting to their particular clients that had SBA loans, letting them know about the 6-month payment, not a deferral, it's actually a 6-month payment made by SBA. And that was true also on SBA loans that were closing during the pandemic after, I believe, April 3rd, when the CARES Act took place and took into effect. So just a quick notice that if you have an SBA loan and you have not heard about that deferral, and it can happen because a lot of our clients have used some regional or national lenders. And so when they look at the national and regional lenders, what oftentimes is you don't have that personal interaction. So keep that in mind if you have an SBA loan or have received one. And then lastly, EIDL program, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, is open, and it's open for the COVID-19 until 12/31. If you had a wildfire claim, or if there's a wildfire claim pending, we're going through that process of having the counties declare disaster areas in California, and that could be an entirely separate application, and it would be a different process as well. So keep that in mind as far as any disaster lending and things like that. Okay, let's move on and actually share the screen, and let me show you a few things that are going on here. So there's HAFTO. I'm sure we all love HAFTO. And of course, as usual, it doesn't give me exactly what I want right now. So let's try again. And what I'm trying to do is to grab my browser. Sometimes it hangs out there, sometimes it doesn't. And let's go to the City of Bakersfield programs first. As we mentioned, there's a lot going on locally in Kern, Inyo, and Mono County. And let's start with the city. The City of Bakersfield is now having, and this actually began and opened up on Monday. And what it is they have a few separate programs, and this one is geared toward businesses, and they're called business assistance grants. And of course, it's going to be for businesses that are physically located within the city limits of Bakersfield, independently owned, and have a current business tax certification. So you have a business license from the City of Bakersfield. You must be a for-profit business. and you must have had at least one employee work 40 hours as a full-time equivalent or considered a full-time equivalent. Annual revenues are capped at $5 million and also 25 employees for the program. So here's how the program is based on. It's based on the number of full-time equivalents, and 1 to 5, you can be awarded a $5,000 grant. 6 to 10 is $10,000. 11 to 17, 15, and as you see, up to 25, you can reach the $20,000 threshold. Now, one thing about the program, as far as the BCARES grant program for small businesses, is that number one is that if you've received a PPP loan or a Kern County Small Business Relief Program, or what we call Kern Recovers program, then you can apply, but you will not be given preference. So preference will be given to those that have not received any funding whatsoever. So if you haven't had a PPP or County of Kern loan, then this grant program is for you if you have a full-time equivalent. So that's the first program that we have. There's the documentation that you're going to need. The documentation is going to include tax returns for 19, 18, and 19, and also copies of your employer tax filings for the first and second quarters. So in seeing that, if a small business owner operated and had no employees when the tax returns are sufficient, you know, when I read that, I still get a little confused, that second bullet there, showing the number of employees. So I don't know if they're counting the small business owner or not. So maybe a little more clarification on that, but that's the first program. And there's going to be $3 million that's available in this program. Good program, dynamic, with preference to those that have not actually received anything yet. Then tonight at the city council meeting, it begins at 5:15, one of the items on the agenda, and this is pulled off of the city's website, and is supporting information for an agenda item on entering into an agreement with the County of Kern to fund some additional monies for other programs that are on Kern Recovers. So in addition to the grant program, it looks like the city is recommending, the staff and the city council and mayor will vote tonight on this. They actually additional monies of $3 million that would go into the Kern Recovers program, and right there, staff recommends $3 million. And then also they recommend right here is $2 million for nonprofit entities. So, so many of these programs are new, and they're going to be decided on tonight as far as the support program goes, but it looks like we could be looking at, in addition to the grants, more money in Kern Recovers. I have heard, I haven't substantiated that yet, that there could be an additional allocation of money into Kern Recovers for Kern County. So again, there you go. 3 programs that's going to a vote tonight of the city council that would put the Kern's grant, or excuse me, the BCARES grant program is open, and we will supply a link to that website. And again, if you have questions today, go to the Q&A and put your questions in the Q&A box, and we'll get to so many of these, as many of these as possible at the end. So that's what's happening locally here in Kern County, and right around the corner from our office here on 17th and H. But what's going also out in some of our other territories? Well, covering Inyo County, reopening Inyo continues to offer a particular loan program, whereas the purple still reigns in Bakersfield, and we'll go through that. It's substantial, or the second tier in Inyo County. And there's a number of programs that I believe have, you have until just a few, maybe the end of the month, in order to apply for the loan programs in Inyo. So PPE programs, loan programs, some of the other openings that are going on for Inyo County. When we jump to Mono County has got some programs that are coming on, some funding programs to help local businesses in Mono County. This is a website from the Mono County website, and offers a few different things as far as industry guidelines and things like that along the lines. So the PPE program is still strong in Inyo and Mono counties. So check with your chambers of commerce in Mono if you'd like some PPE. And that brings us now to the Kern Recovers program, of which the PPE program is still really distributing a lot of very useful materials and business aids and aids for your employees. You'll see there over 50,000 packages of wipes, cases of wipes that have served 46,000 employees, 50 count boxes of masks, 36,976. A tremendous output here for local businesses to try to stimulate that curve and get our businesses open and get them back as healthy as possible, as soon as possible. So business types that are participating in PPE program, and also we had Jay Tamsey on a few weeks back, and he talked about the Hispanic Chamber is actually making distributions from their office. I believe those are still continuing at this point. But you see healthcare, retail, restaurants, childcare being the top 4 categories of businesses, of which we've had 335 healthcare businesses, 294 retail, a lot of restaurants and childcare. So good work there in the Kern Recovers PPE program. So let's go now to kind of something we've been looking at over the last few weeks. And that is our beautiful map of California in a lot of array of 4 different colors, of which someday we want them to be all yellow. Ensign. So with this, we'll see down here, our Kern is still purple, as we mentioned. And if you hover over like I'm doing, and I hope you're seeing that, is that Kern County is considered widespread, the 2 elements. And this is really kind of a ruffling spot in with county leadership and business owners and others throughout the county, is that the state has taken the position of where they take, not only, they take an adjusted case rate. So, you know, they take the number of cases, positive test per 100,000, and you need to be under 7. Well, at Kern County, it's 6.3. But then they apply a factor based on the number of tests that were presented. And in Kern's case, it goes up almost a full point to 7.2, which puts us over the 7.0 threshold and keeps us in the purple for at least 2 more weeks. So this came out yesterday, and I know it's a great source of frustration. I've heard several county leaders discuss it. Business owners are frustrated, and getting the positive number down to where we can graduate to the substantial red level. We're close, and it's just this weighted factor of the fact that there's not enough testing going on according to the state. The other factor is the positivity rate of, and we're currently hitting at 6.5% of those tested test positive. So, you know, a little frustrating, and because when we look at other counties in the San Joaquin Valley, let's just go to Fresno real quick. And those were different numbers than I looked at. Oh, Madera, excuse me. So Fresno County actually is under that, where they have 6.5, but their adjustment, because I guess they have far more testing going on, or they're having far more individuals that are tested, is probably better, is down to 6.3, and their positivity rate of 4.8. With another week like that, we'll put Fresno County in this substantial red rate. Some of the changes we've seen along the state, Madera County, or excuse me, Mariposa County here has moved to the yellow. Tuolumne County to the north of it was in the yellow, and it looks like based on some of the numbers that they're showing that they could be going back to it. And Inyo, Mono County looks like it could be moving yellow, as does Inyo County. So we're seeing in these foothill and more rural areas a lot less positivity rate and a lot less cases per 100,000, which are going to really improve. And we're really on a trend to where we're seeing a lot of improvement, and we hope that continues. And then lastly, just on the COVID-19 here in the Kern County area, and this was updated today, total cases now we're up to 31.7, and it's kind of interesting where females are testing at a higher rate, 52.2%. I'm wondering if that is also true with the population being that way as well. So 52.2% for the female gender, 47.8% for men. And that's basically what we have. Okay, let's do a new share here, and let's pull up a couple things. Let's go here first. And I want to really go with a couple of questions really quickly that I received, and I want to kind of give, this one is probably a little bit more of an answer, and it's I've got a little bit more of an answer for you. And it's about the maximum. We've talked a lot about the maximum of $20,833 after it went to 24 weeks and how that happens. But we didn't spend a lot of time on that calculation. And in going back and looking at, so the question here was, can you still take $20,833? And it would really need to take that amount would need to be based on the total amount that you have for your earnings. And let me show you quickly exactly in maybe more detail what we're talking about. So here was the actual information that came out. And I know in our examples, it didn't really cover a mid-level business as well. And I'll try to get my Excel up and show you real quickly. And when this came out, it came out the day of our webinar back on August 5th, when we covered it strictly from this particular aspect of covering these highlighted bullets. And really, in covering this first one, it doesn't mention anything about the 2.5 months for the earnings. But then when you get into the specific, for example, there's C corporations. And what we're going to see is we're going to see that, and let's go down, and also S corporations, and let's go down to this one, sole proprietor, where we spend a little bit of time. So if you're a sole proprietor and you showed less than that $100,000 income, what you still have to do is do as you calculated and then take 2.5 months divided into 12 of your net profit. So if your net profit was $50,000, it would be theoretically half of that $20,000 cap, or $10,417. And that is the amount that you can actually go up to. The fact that you have 24 weeks doesn't give you the opportunity to go up to the total cap. It is still, and this is the guidance that came out on August the 5th. So wanted to get that question answered, and hopefully we can pull up something here where we get our spreadsheet back, and let's try to see if we can get that back. And there it is. So let's go over this visually. So you've seen our 3 scenarios where we've had the scenarios in the past, and we've done a lot with mom and pop, and we've moved mom and pop along. So in this example, mom and pop didn't have any employees, but had $60,000 in income. And essentially that flowed down to a $12,500 PPP amount that mom and pop could claim. Again, no employees, just straight purchases and operating expenses. So in the next example of mom and pop, let's change it around a little bit. Let's show some payroll expense here of $70,000. And let's show income of $50,000. And therefore, you know, you can see that there's a couple of ways to do this. Businesses, some banks were only allowing you to take the $50,000 for the net income, or $50,000 for the employees. Some others did it a little bit differently. And this is where the calculation, hopefully this is the calculation that a lot of people got. And I saw a lot of lenders do this differently, whereas sometimes they wouldn't take the self-employed individual's income into that. In this case, if you had payroll of $70,000 and you had your earnings of $50,000, that $70,000 would translate, taking the 2.5 divided by 12 into 14,583 and the self-employment amount. And so it goes all the way up to 25,000. So it really depends on how that original paperwork and really how the intent was. If you have the option in order to use it on payroll, because at this point, going out 24 weeks rather than payroll for you, it's still going to be reimbursed in forgiven costs, but it's going to be a lot cleaner if you use others, if you can, if you have it available, to use other payroll amounts rather than for yourself. So the second question that we had, and it was just along the lines of the 3 PPPs, was this one. And yes, this one right here, question number 2. So in question number 2, can you use the simplified method of FTE employees? And remember, we have 3 methods that we can use. We can use a simple method of 1.0 is for employees of 40 or more hours. 05 is for anybody who works fewer than 40. That's the one method. Number 2 is you can also elect to use the actual. So if you have a 40-hour person, it's 1.0. If you have a 30-hour-a-week person, it would be 0.75. So whatever works best for you when you calculate that out is going to be best for you. And then, of course, we also have the safe harbor exemption that I think we're still waiting for a little more guidance on, that if you were unable to operate your business, you know, which I think many people haven't, you can just check this box based on this safe harbor exemption. So 3 methods right there, and 3 methods for you. So, okay, let's move on. Let's move on to our guest speaker today. And our guest speaker today is Claudia Newcorn. And Claudia is an award-winning consultant, speaker, and author of the Amazon book, Zipline to Success, Fast-Track Marketing Strategies to Accelerate Your Profits. Her proven Zipline to Success system has helped hundreds of companies make critical marketing decisions, zip over challenges, develop targeted solutions, complete key marketing projects on time, best practices. She's worked with a number of larger companies, well-known companies such as Gillette. I visited the Gillette man this week. E&J Gallo, Food Saver Delicato, and a number of small businesses that she's worked with. Personally, I'm doing a little practice what I preach because I meet with Claudia on a monthly basis for marketing our goods, our services. I'd like to think we had goods, but our services here at the SBDC. So Claudia, welcome. It's great to have you on here. I'm looking forward to our next marketing meeting, which is, I believe, tomorrow. Thank you, and take it away.
Well, it's very good. If you'll unshare your screen, I'll put my screen up.
You've got it.
Thank you very much for that nice welcome. Folks, Kelly basically said, can you do marketing? And I said, I have a little bit of experience in it. So what I'm going to do is go through the presentation. Kelly will be monitoring the chat. And at the end of the presentation, we'll be happy to take questions and address anything we possibly can for you. My hope is that you will find some very useful and actionable items in the presentation that you can take back to your businesses. And if you have questions, what Kelly didn't mention is I'm also an SBDC consultant. I've had the honor of working with the SBDC for now over 10 years. And so I warmly encourage you to leverage your local SBDC. They've got an amazing team, and take advantage of it. The price is right, it's at no cost, but the expertise is exceptional. So today we're going to cover 6 smart marketing tactics to help you navigate the new normal, and I'm going to offer you a number of core steps that you can take to do so. Kelly kindly ran very quickly through my bio. I appreciate that. The one thing he doesn't know is I'm also an award-winning fantasy fiction author. That's what I do in the background. So if you're ever looking for a good fantasy fiction book, look me up by name. You'll find them. Yes, they're on Amazon. Let's take a look at marketing meets the new normal. This is hitting not just our state, our regions, it's hitting the whole world. And so depending on who you serve as a company, the ramifications are being encountered everywhere. First and foremost, we are going through an earthquake. And I like to say the situation we're in is an earthquake plus a paradigm shift. Briefly today, what I'm going to be covering with you is a quick review of the what I call C-19 earthquake. To me, COVID-19 is like the big B-19 bombers from World War II. It's pretty significant. We'll go over the 3 A's for today, and I'll share with you 6 marketing musts that I encourage you to take away and apply to your own business. Quick review. Humanity has just gone through a 9.0 earthquake, and I don't think that's an exaggeration. Some hard facts that we are all dealing with. It's total disruption of the market environment as we've known it in the past. There's a minimalism shift going on. As many of you are aware, personal savings rates have jumped. Where in March, early March, they were 12.6%. As of the end of July, they were at 17.3%. Folks are more conservative, so that means they're more cautious with their disposable income. We all know federal assistance remains unpredictable. They're still, as Kelly pointed out, hashing it out, and it's an election year. In the best of times, an election year precipitates instability. Fact, big companies are going bankrupt at a record pace. In many instances, these were already underway. A lot of the brick and mortars, Neiman, Nordstrom's, Clothing 21. But it's not just them who are suffering. Yelp most recently, as of the end of August, reported that of the companies that are listed on Yelp, over 100,000 of them have gone from temporary closure to permanent closure, so as of the beginning of March. And that's, to me, an extremely sad thing, because these are people's hopes and dreams, which, for reasons beyond their control, folded. Fact, business models are being upended. We've got a work paradigm shift many of you may be actually personally experiencing with work at home. In fact, 42% of the U.S. labor force is working from home now. And interestingly enough, that isn't expected to shift back. Many people have discovered, yeah, you can work at home. You have a good internet connection. If you have the professional dedication, whether you're in the office isn't an issue. Plus, office centers are looking for ways to reduce risk of exposure, so they don't want to bring everyone back into a packed office environment. The outcome of all of this is roiled emotions. Both consumer and business sentiment is completely stirred up. Nobody is sure really what's coming next. You probably yourself have experienced, and I can assure you from research, your customers are experiencing frustration, anger, despair, hopelessness, confusion. Basically, they don't know who to trust. They're not sure who's doing the right thing, who's not. They're not sure how to respond. And when people and businesses are experiencing emotions like that and hearing about all these failures, what it triggers is a panic mindset. You've all heard of the fight or flight reaction. I also add to that freeze. Rather than do anything, you just stand there, deer in headlights, and say, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? So I'm hoping that what we cover next is going to help you get off of one of those negative reactions and say instead, hey, I can do this. First, let me remind you, Californians are great reinventors. For any of you who were here in 1989, that was the first year I lived here in California. I'd been here about 5 months. We had the Loma Prieta earthquake. As you all know, it took down the Cypress Freeway. It was a disaster. The Embarcadero area was a mess. 2015, it's now considered a luxury, chic environment, attracts tourism from all over the world. Yes, it was a disaster, but we're really good at rebuilding. I want to remind you of that when we're struggling through a difficult time now. We can get through it. We've done it before, and the reality is we'll probably have to do it again. The 3 A's for businesses are accept, adapt, and agility. I encourage you to embrace this mindset, and I'm going to walk you through what I mean and how you can apply this. Let's start with my telling you flat out, folks, get beyond who moved my cheese. For those of you who remember this lovely little book, it was about that thick back in the 90s, the basic premise is we all get fat, dumb, and happy and comfortable with the way things are. Unfortunately, when someone moves the cheese, in other words, changes things, what a lot of people do is sit there and go, who moved my cheese? Please put my cheese back. I want things to go back to the way they were. That's not a really productive mindset. So I'm asking you to move away from get beyond, or excuse me, who moved my cheese, and start saying, accept it. This is the way it is. What does this mean for people who are business to consumer businesses? I encourage you to be open to all the ways that you might increase sales. Stay agile. It's important to sustain momentum. Start looking for niche markets. If you know your business, you're going to be aware, and go look at your sales data and revenue data. Who's buying what, where, when, whom? You should be ready and know who your consumers are, and if you don't, now's a really good time to start working on that. Retailers, please look at new ideas about your revenues and profits. And this means you need to really rethink your marketing mix. What are your products? How profitable are they? What's your pricing strategy? Is it the right strategy for now? How do you go about promoting in a world where people are hesitant to make contact? Be open to looking at new ideas of how you run your operating models. You're probably already hearing a pattern here. It's change. For B2B, a lot of companies don't want salespeople walking in the door. They're pure and simple. That means your sales team has to start looking at digital and remote sales. Are they trained and ready for this? Does your team know how to handle a Zoom or other platform meeting? You want to tailor your pricing strategies for each customer as opposed to one blanket look, which means are your customer service teams trained and ready to respond, probably more so than ever before? If you're producing or creating products, how agile are you at accelerating product innovation? And I'm going to show you some examples shortly. Are there pockets of growth that you could focus on? For example, one of my clients has identified a surging demand, big surprise, for disinfectant. Guess where he's focusing his sales energy right now? I want you to start thinking that, unlike saying, okay, these are lemons, I know it sounds like it's a cliche, but let's look at making lemonade. I see the situation as tremendous opportunities for you to get creative. And let's start looking at ways that you can adapt your business to a situation that isn't going to be changing rapidly anytime soon. First, agility means rethink yourself. That's, if you walk away from this right now, that's what I'd like to encourage you to be working on. Rethink how you do your business. Do you put up barriers to connecting with your customers, or do you really work hard to connect with them? Recognize this, especially if you're working with millennials, basically anyone under 45, Gen Z, or higher income consumers, they're living online. Many companies I work with through the SBDC are still not really having a good footprint online, and I'm going to walk you through what you really need to do. You may not know this, but more than 85% of websites are now viewed on what? A cell phone, which of course raises questions, is your site mobile responsive? People expect you to have an online presence, and I'm talking even a basic website. That's how they're learning about you. If you don't, you're already behind the times. They expect your website to be easy to navigate. I'm sure the majority of you have at least once bought something on Amazon. It's a pretty easy website to move around, but realize that website has trained people in their expectations of what they'll encounter when they are with you. You have about 3 to 5 seconds to catch their attention when they land on your site. The more barriers, the less likely you're going to get impulse. And by that I mean, if it's hard to navigate, if I can't find what I'm looking for, if I have to scroll for 5 minutes, I'm gone. I'm going to go find something else somewhere else. I encourage you to step back and optimize your online presence for maximum visibility. Get online, pretend you know nothing about yourself, and search for your business. You're in for a shock, most of you. I am constantly amazed at how many companies have not claimed and managed their business on Google Business and Yelp, which means you can't respond to reviews, you can't personalize it, you can't put photos on it. Facebook automatically now creates a Facebook page for you whether or not you have. I shocked one of my SBDC clients with that yesterday. Please find out how you're being presented online, and if you're not in control of it, now's a good time to start. And we have people on the team who can assist you with this. I encourage you to review your website. Is it a friendly digital journey, or is it mobile responsive? And I'm going to give you a quick snapshot of 2 examples. Both of these are, believe it or not, in precast concrete. I hope I didn't accidentally get your business. There's nothing wrong with this site, but okay, it goes straight to products. I've got to kind of look. I'm not finding out much about the company. It expects me to know what I'm doing and what I'm looking for. So it's all right. Okay, I can get a quote. Maybe I can search. But this, I can tell looking at this is probably an older website. Okay, so I will zap out of this quickly, and then I'll show you a site's exact same industry and watch what happens. Now, this company is on top of it. As an example, they right out of the gate are telling me about what they're doing with COVID-19. They're reassuring me, they're explaining how I'm able to work with them. I can rapidly find a phone number, any information I need. They give me a little bit of a sales pitch. I learn quickly about their business, and I can boogie. I can move through and find things very fast. This is an example in the exact same industry. Two websites, similar target audiences, one that is much more customer-centric and the other that's kind of stuck a little bit behind the times. Recognize that this situation is not about you or your business. It really is about focusing on your consumer. There's a new term I just learned about a week ago called the homebody economy. Let's face it, your home, your client's home is a multifunctional hub. And I am scampering, by the way, a little bit through this because I know we're on a timeline. People learn, they work, they shop, they play, they go to school, where? In the home. And that is probably going to increase depending on what goes on this fall. Unfortunately, if we do have a surge, people may get back into the home even more. They expect you to cater to them. And by the way, if you don't, not only will they not be satisfied, they'll tell everybody about it online. We know how happy everyone is to review companies and say what they think, good, bad, or indifferent. You've got to look for creative ways to cater to their needs. Can you offer delivery? And that doesn't mean you have to have a delivery truck. You can invite them to contact a local Uber or Lyft driver who will come out, pick it up, and bring it back. People are used to doing things like this. You can help Uber and Lyft have a little business in your local economy, and you're able to start offering a no-cost-to-you delivery service. Are you able to do your consultations, your sales meetings, your client interactions online, whether it's Zoom, phone, or another application? A lot of folks haven't even considered this, and we've now been going through this pandemic for over 6 months. The SBDC moved to Zoom literally instantaneously, and I can tell you that except for one client in 6 months, I'm doing all my business and consultations by Zoom. What can you convert in your business to an online activity? And yes, I will give you examples. There are yoga studios who now do everything via Zoom. People pay for online classes. Cooking classes are being hosted by bakeries, restaurants, food producers. Wineries are doing tastings or offering online tasting courses. There are people who teach folks how to make quarantine cookies. And before you say, well, yeah, but that's not going to generate revenue, people are successfully charging for these because they know folks don't want to leave the home. So what they've done is they've tweaked their paradigm just slightly, figured out how to go online, charge for their services, retain customer loyalty, and have happy clients. What's not to like about that? Can you bundle your services and products, add value by saying buy two, get one free? How do you leverage promotions and ways to better connect? It also helps retain client loyalty because you're offering them something special. A couple of great examples, Shabika's Olive Oils, with whom I've worked for years. They normally have an annual Farm to Fork festival. Huge thing, 3,000 people pour in for one day. Couldn't do it this year, not allowed. So we came up with different bundled offers, special 3-day promotions instead of one. They actually had larger sales for how we put this together than the regular event. We just rethought the event and said, how do we work within the configurations of the state's guidelines? The Society for Women of America is doing a huge event normally done at our local Modesto Center Plaza, not allowed. Not only are they doing 20 speakers, they are creating a virtual job fair and a virtual market where you're going to be able to go in, so to speak, online, talk to a retailer, make a purchase, visit the hall, all online. This is their business. If they can't do an event, they've got to figure out how to repurpose it, and they have, and it's going to be very unique and exciting. Please look at ways of localizing your experience. Think small. There's a concept. We're always told to say think big. I would like you to start thinking small. Think community. Think hyper, focus, targeting. We know that the shutdown has made people's feelings about their neighborhood and communities more important. Research totally supports this. In fact, more people want to support local, not only because they want to help local businesses, but they have a greater level of confidence and trust in the quality and safety of the local business. This is important to you. Be aware of this. There has been a massive uptick in social media groups, social networks, communities, connections. For example, how many of you have gone to Nextdoor, OfferUp, or have discovered the Facebook Marketplace? And real quickly, I'll give you an example. Nextdoor actually now, it used to be just kind of like a Facebook group, but Nextdoor now actually has a whole section, if it will come up, for businesses, see here, to list their businesses. They can list things for sale or for free. Look, local deals. How many of you are on Nextdoor? And by the way, Nextdoor has local chapters. I happen to be on College Manor next door, which is where I live, area. But you all are going to have local Nextdoor chapters because Nextdoor is nationwide. Another good example, how many of you aware that Facebook has local marketplace? Again, just popping in, you can all find this when you go online. But if you take, again, I didn't know this existed, to be honest with you, till I was doing some research. So here's Facebook. It's set to a filter, which is Modesto, California, within 40 miles. People are selling things online. How's about you? Is your business making any effort to have a presence there? If the answer is no, may I encourage you that now would probably be a good time to look at doing that. Think local, think tailored, think personal. Don't just say, hi, buy from me, I'm here and I'm local. When you're looking at the group you're trying to reach out to, take a look at why they formed. Are these worried moms about teaching at home? Okay, can you tailor your message? And remember, don't just promote your business. The core rule of thumb online is people are there for the social aspect. A maximum of 1 out of every 4 or 5 engagements are allowed to be promotional. Educate, inform, support, help people, provide advice, just like I'm doing right now as a speaker. You should shop local as well. Support other local businesses and tell everybody about it. Practice what you preach. Please sponsor community efforts, centers, or groups. You can even host a virtual event. And again, let everyone know. This is stuff you can share through your engagement and make people feel good about supporting you and about you as a local business. Stay connected. Our people tend to hibernate, they freeze in situations like this. More than ever before, because of the digital presence, you need to stay online and stay connected. Redefine the maze. In fact, do me a favor, smash the old maze and define the new one. Who says you can't do that? I hate that mindset. Honestly, guys, I really do. Creative thinking takes you to survival, and then my favorite word, thrival. You can move beyond this. For example, the Inn at Morro Bay Hotel in an area where tourism is down about 90%, repurpose their whole hotel and invite people to take a workcation. In other words, rent a room to do your office right there on the bay. I thought that was incredibly creative. Great rates. They're using their hotel, giving people an idea. Wineries and craft breweries are doing pandemic tasting boxes, and then they host online tastings. So they're selling their wines. They do an online training in the proper tasting. They have group discussions about the newest vintage, and the list goes on. I know of restaurants that are working with area companies to provide boxed lunches by basically packaging their meals and taking them to the companies. I'm aware of other restaurants who are working with farmers who are suddenly having to leave produce in the field to box the produce and help sell crop boxes. Totally out of the box thinking, no pun intended. During the early part of the pandemic, E&J Gallo totally repurposed a production line to make hand sanitizer. A local company here who serves Northern California, Hot Sea Pacific, repackaged bulk disinfectant into containers of wipes because there was a shortage of wipes and they wanted to help the local community. I challenge you to challenge your teams to dump the word no. Sam Walton's success at Walmart in large part was predicated on his rewarding his employees to bring crazy ideas from any industry, not just restricted to retail. If he took an idea and implemented it, he gave them a financial incentive. Well, the employees were motivated. When Southwest Airlines formed, they held birthday parties. They did things no other airline did. They came up with crazy ideas that honestly they pretty much borrowed from other industries, and the end result was tremendous success. Get your teams involved. They're right there on the front lines, and they probably have a lot of good ideas you've not considered. Also look for creative partnerships with other area companies. Two minds can be better than one. Please take the time to reassure your customers, and this is especially for all of you who have front-facing businesses. You want to create a space for health and trust. Again, I've said it before, I repeat, people want to support local. But recognize in-store foot traffic is only going to return if people feel that your spaces are safe to come to and virus-free. You've all seen this. You should be practicing this or incorporating it. Contactless activities. The way people pay. They don't want to touch you. You don't want to touch their card. Curbside services, delivery services. People are reconfiguring their stores to reduce close, compact visitors. Ask yourself, what are your cleanliness credentials saying about your company? Recognize this and set aside politics for a moment, folks. 75% of Californians believe wearing masks is the right thing. Irregardless of your political point of view, if you are not serving that segment of California, okay, but are you willing to risk losing clients? Instead, simply say, we want clients to feel safe in our establishment. We're going to make sure we have strong cleanliness credentials. What they're looking for is first, are you protecting them? Are you protecting your employees? I walked into a hair salon the other day and not a single stylist was wearing a mask. Turned around, walked out. I'm not going to take a risk that one of them might be ill. Are you making it easy to social distance? Do people see that you're actually practicing clean? I have a colleague who went into a restaurant. As she was waiting to be seated, she noticed people leaving their tables. Staff didn't bother to clean the table afterwards. Guess what she did? Turned around and left. She said, if they're not taking care of me, I don't want to imagine what's going on in the back where I can't see. Are you communicating what you're doing online for COVID-19? Just like that website. Let people know you're taking the initiative. These are the best practices. And even if it's not just front-facing, you're going B2B, they want to know what you're doing about COVID-19 at your establishment. Finally, don't react. Please plan. And again, we've got great strategic planning resources at the SBDC. And please get flexible. We cannot predict next year. And by the way, the old normal is history. We will not be going back to normal. We'll be going back to a new normal. That's normal. Ha ha, funny. Most big companies anticipate this instability in the market into 2022. Obviously, we'll find out, but you as a business person should be saying, okay, if that happens, am I ready for it? People are adapting to totally new buyer and work paradigms. You've seen the data. Remember when cell phones came out? Hard to imagine they're only 10 years old. Did they not totally redefine the shopping experience? Well, the pandemic is redefining the buyer experience now. Please plan for 3 what-ifs, because reacting leaves you behind, proacting puts you ahead, and I'd like you to look at worst case, likely case, and best case scenarios. This is marketing. What is your marketing strategy in context of each of these? You've heard Kelly say it 10 times through these presentations, cash is king. Please look at and know your finances and your capital resources to help you survive through an extended period. Because the fact is, this is a marathon, folks. It's not a sprint. I encourage you to leverage your local SBDC. They're here for you. And then finally, this is me. about a minute before I went screeching down a zip line. I happen to be afraid of heights, so that's what makes it extremely funny. And I just wanted to share with you that, as you know, I'm an award-winning author. If you are interested, while the book is available online for the attendees of this event, if you contact me through my website, I am going to be offering an addition to the book at a special discount of $12. I will be sending out to my buyers 3 special smart marketing practices to help you with your business. And that takes me done. And Kelly, you have the con as soon as it stops sharing.
Well, fantastic. I did unmute, didn't I? I
hear you, yeah.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Claudia. That was outstanding. I like that word thrival. I mean, I am really do like it. So if you have any questions for Claudia, we're going to jump into the Q&A box. We have some on the forgiveness aspect, but let's get to these questions and get me off the screen for one. Get next week up there. And first question. The first question. And it never lets me do this, does it? Okay, first question. Is the 6-month SBA loan payment only good on non-idle loans? Yes, that is correct. There is a deferment that is available. Off the top of my head, I can't recall what it is. I believe it's either 6 months or 12 months before you have to make a payment on an idle loan. It'll be in your loan documents, but the 6-month loan payment, where actually SBA makes the actual loan payment, is going to be for the SBA 7A or 504 loan. So one of them is the guaranteed loan program, and the other one is the fixed asset loan program that you either had existing or you actually received it. And if you received it during the pandemic, I'm sure you heard about it. This next question is our bank, we won't name the bank, but it starts with Pacific, gave our PPP to the loan source, which I'm assuming is outsourcing it. And I think we're going to see a lot of that. I think you're going to see a lot of entities, a lot of lenders that are going to be using third party to either assist or to entirely do the forgiveness process. And the question is, does it make sense to file the paperwork before any resolution to PPP? I think there are cases where it totally makes sense. If you spent the money in 8 weeks, for example, if you spend it all on payroll, if you want to get it off of your books because it will show as a liability and could affect other factors, either towards shareholders, toward other commitments that you have with lenders where you have financial ratios to keep. That was a big one for several small businesses that actually had a line of credit, and that increased debt load was going to affect their debt to equity ratio and also perhaps put them out of favor with their bank. So in those instances, I would say if you have it and the bank is willing to do it and they come back and everything's 100%, I'd say, yeah. I would just be cautious on making sure that you had the employees back and you met one of the FTE, the full-time equivalent employee part of that. But in many cases, it does make sense. And again, we are starting to see the actual, we're starting to see a lot of the small banks that are staggering their clients and going through that process. There's a number of questions related to the new Bakersfield CARES, the BCARES program. The BCARES program, yes, it is available for nonprofits as well as for-profits. We discussed the for-profit, but there is a nonprofit aspect to it as well. I believe it is the part being considered tonight on the board meeting. And also, if there is the component for the Kern County has actually through Kern Recovers a component as well for nonprofits. So a couple of great nonprofit programs. Next questions, we received our PPP funds at the very end of the year. Can we elect the 24-week even though it extends past December 31st? And my answer to that would be it will end on December 31st. If you got it at the end of July, you're going to be pretty close because that'll be 5 months. So you're going to be around 21, maybe 22 weeks. So you're going to have, instead of a 24-week period, you can elect the 24-week period, but you will only get till December 31st, which will be about 22 weeks. The next one's a comment. Thank you, Claudia. That was great. I agree. Will you be emailing today's, we will be doing an e-blast following up with Claudia's slides so that you can share with others. Well, I will ask Claudia that. I imagine, knowing Claudia, that she is very willing to share that with you. We will do that, and we'll do some of the links because, as we discussed, the BCARES program is open, and you want to actually jump in that as soon as possible because it opened on Monday. Kelly, can we access this recorded meeting at a later time? All of these are on YouTube, or go to our YouTube channel. If you really want it before then, because it'll take us a few days to get it up, I can send you a link out to the webinar to where you can rejoin it. So if you want to rejoin the webinar and listen to Claudia's great points again, that will be available to you. Okay, let me check chat real quick. I think we covered a lot of the BCARES and a lot of the other questions that we received earlier on both BCARES, Kern Recovers, and the like. So I think we've got that covered. So let's take a look at next week. Next week, our special guest is going to be Ruth Hedges, and Ruth has been described by Forbes magazine as the queen of crowdfunding. And whereas Claudia today came from us from the northern San Joaquin Valley, Ruth will be coming from us from Texas. For a number of years, Ruth really ran the premier, in my estimation, crowdfunding event, which dealt with equity crowdfunding, investment type crowdfunding, and other big programs, and did that out of Las Vegas, where she had several hundred attendees. She was responsible for the act that got crowdfunding up and going. And crowdfunding, I believe, is going to the investment side of things, and also the rewards, participation, and debt is going to be very valuable to small businesses moving forward, as individuals are willing to be part of your success and to keep small businesses in business. There's going to be some great discussion on crowdfunding next week. Well, I thank Claudia Newcorn. Thank you, Claudia, for joining us today. Great marketing information. And for Claudia Newcorn, I'm Kelly Bearden, and we'll be back next week, number 29. Thank you for attending, and we'll see you then. Bye-bye now.